morning. It's Friday, September 12th. I haven't done much more than make a quick post, maybe two, um, about what happened Wednesday. Because quite frankly, um, I had to get my headspace together. Um, I don't know Charlie Kirk. Um, didn't even follow Charlie Kirk, but I would see his videos weekly if I scrolled social media for very long. And so Wednesday was a day for me anyway. I had something that I witnessed. It was a little traumatic and just a crazy situation Wednesday morning. So I was already affected and feeling some type of way. And then I was trying to do my job, just working, running calls. And Wednesday, I finished up a job about 2 o'clock here, and there I can't explain it. I'm not going to claim I can feel or sense anything. I'm just saying I had this sense of unease. I couldn't explain it. Tried to move along with my day. Don't understand it. Sometimes, you never know. So, and I still don't think much more of it, but it sets the stage for how I felt as I was headed to my last job. And about 5 minutes before I arrived, I had scrolled or seen something, and there was something that popped up on my radar. I wasn't listening to the radio. Something just kind of came up on my radar, and I started looking for news or something about Charlie Kirk. It seemed like something had happened involving him, and so obviously, um, we know what happened. And um, I'm just going to say it's the most senseless thing that somebody can do, especially to someone who is not um, physically attacking somebody that's just having a conversation. I'm not going to beat that dead horse to death because everybody already else has. Okay? It is what it is, and it's sad, and it's disgusting. Um, and nobody anywhere should have to even think about their safety for speaking truth. Now, you may not have agreed with everything that he said, and that's okay. That's why we have the American system. You don't have to agree, but you do have to be civil about it. And this notion that we need to not be civil because somebody disagrees with us is very anti-American. But I digress. Let me just say this. I didn't know how to process it. I accidentally wasn't looking for it. But probably like many of you, I accidentally saw that video of that moment. And I don't want to see it again. That bothers me. I've never done well. Years ago, I remember just being absolutely horrified for 2 days. Some friends took me when I was a late teenager, and we went to see Faces of Death in a movie theater. And it was absolutely horrid because it was 2 hours of just watching the moment of death, and I don't like it. It affects me deeply, and so I try to avoid that. And so I was very sad that I had to see that the other day. And so it's horrific, and when it plays out in front of us almost in live time, that's not something we're used to, and we should never get used to that. And I'm going to say this, um, while it's horrific, and most of you have gone through a range of emotions this week, there are a few people that have a completely different take on it. I'm not going to tell you what I think about them, but I think they're wrong. And let's just leave it at that. Let me say this. When I watch Charlie Kirk, it becomes a little bit personal to me, and I'm going to tell you why. I have 3 sons. And my middle son, when I watch some of Charlie Kirk's videos, I see mannerisms and facial expressions, sometimes his verbal expressions, and even his humor. At times, I see for a moment, I see my son. And this is not a, oh, that could have been my son up there. No, this is literal, actual, I see mannerisms that I'm like, oh, that's Charlie Kirk. So if there's anybody else out there that maybe that's happened to, I doubt it. Most of us are just understanding, and our hearts go out because of the tragedy of the situation. Most of us feel some type of way about his wife, his children, that little girl that just seems to think that her daddy was everything to her, and he thought she was everything. That whole dynamic of children involved changes so much. It doesn't change anything in regards to how brutal and senseless it was, but it changes. And so when I see those videos and I see that little smirk or whatever, there's several little things. And sometimes I've had to go back and look at the video and say exactly what was it. So it makes it personal, in that regard. Not that I know him, he said some controversial things, absolutely. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see anybody. And we can take a long list of provocateurs that are in the public limelight that say things all the time that we disagree with, and some of us disagree vehemently with them. And it doesn't matter if you're left or if you're right. We all have people that we just absolutely despise whatever comes out of their mouth. But it's not a reason, and never has been and never will be a good enough reason to end somebody's life and cut them short. We deserve better than that. There's a million videos, and this one's probably not going to get a lot of views because I'm just an average guy. I don't have a big following. So probably the people that see me are going to see this. And let me just acknowledge that I know that there are people in my circle that don't feel the way that I feel. There's been a lot of whataboutism this week. Well, if it was this situation over here, you wouldn't feel that. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about this situation, because when it's time to talk about the situation that's important to you, that's what you expect. And I try to acknowledge and honor that. And when somebody's talking about an issue that's important, then we stick to the subject matter. So there is no whataboutism. If anything, people are being more sensitive, and I think people will be more, and I hate to use these two words because it's been controversial this week in regards to this, but I'm going to say it. I think right now, because of the trauma that so many people are feeling, there is a growth of empathy and sympathy. And they are two different words. And if you've machinated about that issue this week, go and look at the two differences. Before I ever heard him say that, I talked about the difference between empathy and sympathy all the time. I have said for years, I know a guy whose wife has died. I cannot empathize. I cannot. Because empathy, again, is to feel exactly what that person feels. And to me, it would be an insult to walk up to my friend and say, man, I know how you feel. Because I don't. That would be a lie. Insulting. So, what do I have? Sympathy. Sympathy says, hey, you know what? I'll try to imagine, but I cannot. I can't fathom it. I'll try to imagine. So What do I think would be the most beneficial to me if I were in such a position? You never know. I never knew how people felt when one of their parents died until my father passed. Then I knew. Now I can have empathy for people whose father has passed. I can say, I know exactly how you feel. I went through it in 2011. That's empathy. Sympathy is when you don't really know how they feel. You're just trying to somehow imagine it, and then you act accordingly. So you can have sympathy without empathy. And I'm really digressing here. That's what I wanted to say. It's really more than I wanted to say, but I just wanted to say that I'm very, very sad for where we are as a society and as people. Let me just say this. As a child, I was bullied. I was. I was different. I was funny looking. I got picked on in school a lot. And if anybody knows what bullying behavior is, I know it. I know it the moment I see it. And one thing that I experienced was I knew how to speak and speak intelligently. And the bullies weren't always that intelligent. And so when I would speak to them intelligently, I could tell them about themselves without using the first swear word, and I could get my point across. They never could respond in like kind. They always resorted to violence. They wanted to swing at me, they wanted to hit me, kick me, whatever. And at some point I learned fight back, and I did. But the point is, that's what bullies do. They can't talk to you if you don't agree with them. All they have the intelligence to do is to tell you what's on their mind. And if that's not something you agree with, then their only recourse is violence, because that's the end of the mental capability. And I think that's where we are. And it's sad. So, as I told somebody close to me a couple of days ago, we can't respond violently. Yeah, there's people that may want to, but we can't. We're intelligent. We're better than that. And as a society, that's what we should promote, is being smarter and being better and doing what we know we're supposed to do. Tolerance is a two-way street. You have to tolerate things back and forth. You can agree to disagree. You can have a difference of opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. But tolerance only works if people are civil. If tolerance is forced, then it's no longer tolerance. So, I could probably go on and on and on, and I'm not going to, but I'm still processing, and this is probably the most I've had to say since it happened. But I pray that each and one of you, every one of you, can find peace of mind, that you can reconcile your emotions, and that we can move forward with that empathy, sympathy, and understanding, and accept the fact that we're all different, but we all are human, and we all live together, and we have to be peaceful. And this was not peace. So until next time, thanks for watching.